Advances in computer graphics over the past 10 years are making it possible to create artificial three-dimensional worlds, complete and convincing, though they only exist in the mind of the viewer and the heart of the computer. Known as virtual reality, or VR, this new technology uses pictures and sounds to wrap around your senses. Imagine a place and you'll be able to step into it. Conjure up a dream and you'll be able to fly through it.
The idea of virtual reality has been around for almost 200 years, and over those 2 centuries, we've seen some massive progressions in its technology. VR first hit its big stride in the late 80s and the early 90s, and if you were alive back then, you probably have faint memories of those weird commercials like the one you just saw. Bulky headsets, dated graphics, and talks of an alternate universe started to flood the mainstream media. But with that big peak, there was an even bigger trough only shortly after, where VR seemed to just die. If you take a look at a timeline on the history of VR, you'll notice a huge gap between around 1994 and 2007 that sticks out like a sore thumb. Barely any content was created in these years, there were no new advancements, and many companies seemed to just give up. Because of this, many people you'll talk to today will think of VR as 3D televisions. They'll come to think of the technology as a fad, something that got pretty big in the past, but just didn't have the momentum to stick. The good news is that this couldn't be further from the truth. In 2012, a company called Oculus created a Kickstarter campaign for their new VR headset, named the Oculus Rift, which ended up raising over $2 million. This campaign helped to revive the interest in VR. Facebook ended up buying Oculus outright for over $2 billion only shortly after. Sony started to develop their own headset, Google too, and before we knew it, a bunch of companies had joined in on the hype to create their own VR headsets and content. But even with all of these companies investing their time and money into VR, making the technology commonplace and understood in society is an uphill battle. Over the past decade, many VR developers have sought to understand where and how virtual reality can fit into our lives. Sure, entertainment is an easy answer, but what potential does it have outside of this? Where in our lives can this technology help us the most? VR has been and is being implemented into a wide variety of areas that you may not even know about, such as anatomy, history, medicine, engineering, architecture, music, business, and, for the main focus of this video, education. Let's take a deeper dive into how VR is impacting teaching and learning. To help explain how VR is being used in education, let's take a look at the Virtual Reality Lab on the University of Illinois campus. Someone who has never stepped foot in the lab will undoubtedly have questions like, what is the lab for? Why are we spending so much money on this stuff? And what do you even aim to do? Overall, what is its purpose? The truth is, the whole point of the lab itself is to figure out its own purpose. And that might sound weird, but VR is in a bleeding edge state. People are still just figuring out how to even use it and deciding where it makes the most sense to integrate. Because of this uncertainty, many companies and universities have chosen to take a step back from this technology and wait for other people to advance it before they jump in. And while that's fine, someone needs to be the one to take the first steps and explore how we can really use it. We already know that VR itself is an uphill battle, but being able to implement this technology into the education industry as a whole is an even steeper hill. How do you convince professors, faculty, colleges, and entire universities to change the way that they've been teaching for so many years? And on top of that, how do you introduce a technology that isn't even accessible to most people? The VR lab faces all of these challenges every day, but over the past few years, more and more people have begun to see the potential that virtual reality has in their teaching. Tours and small events are only the beginning. In the past year, various professors at our university have begun to bring in their classes every week to learn with VR. From teaching French, to studying anatomy, all the way to designing 3D products, the lab helps students and teachers implement VR into their lives and into their passions. As time goes on, support for VR in education will only increase. More and more people every day are learning about what companies like Facebook are doing to advance virtual reality, so it's only a matter of time before it becomes more commonplace. The exact year that this happens is unknown, so what should we be doing in the meantime to prepare? The first step, and arguably the most important one, is exposure. Ask yourself, how many people do you think know about VR and its potential? How many students on our campus alone know about the VR lab and what we do here? I'll give you a hint. Not a lot at all. The fact of the matter is that more people just need to know about this technology. Look at the VR Club as an example. We created the club back in fall 2019, hosting social events, open hours, competitions, and general meetings. Sure, it's fun to play the newest VR games, but what is the purpose of the club itself? What is our end goal? What we really want is to introduce new technologies, new ideas, and new ways of thinking to students. We want to show as many people as we can about what's going on in the background of our lives, what these companies are striving towards, and how everything will change when things like VR become more commonplace in our world. As I said, introducing virtual reality to people and getting them interested is the first step, because for every few people that try on a headset, one of them might take a step back and get an idea. They might want to learn more, like how to create their own experiences, or figure out how to use VR for their major. In reality, the VR Club and the VR Lab are the stepping stones for advancements in technology and education. This is no easy task, but it's a challenge that I welcome with open arms, because I know that one day this will all pay off. And these ideas extend far beyond the subject of virtual reality alone. Introducing new technology into education will always be a challenge. There's a lot of work and a lot of momentum that's needed to make such a drastic change in the way that we learn and the way that we teach, but it can and will be done. It's hard to pinpoint an exact date when VR and technology like it will become more mainstream in our lives, but that moment is rapidly approaching. And it's up to all of us to decide whether we want to embrace these changes and help explore them, or get left behind.